Well, my people, I've done one of these before, and maybe I'll do a few more. I don't know. It's interesting listening to these things and trying to get into the real lives of some of the people that I react to. This one specifically is because I'm 15 minutes drive away from these areas or so, 15 some, 20 others. So it's interesting to me because I when I was growing up, I was in and out of those areas often, and it wasn't how it is now. So maybe I'll get to understand what made it the way it is now, or maybe I'll just listen to something interesting. You never know. But anyway, this is the deadly war in northwest London. I always tag the original video, so check out that brother's channel and check out the little docu-series or documentary for yourselves.
That have been warring for more than half a decade now. Rayners Lane. Alright, I'm back in London, precisely the northwest and west region of the city. Today I'll be looking at two gangs that have been warring for more than half a decade now. Rayners Lane vs 156. 156 is a combination of sets and
so in reality, it's a new war, and some of these wars, they don't last for long, but because of what happens in them, the beef remains. I know these areas so well. That them multicoloured shops there, that's Southall, Broadway, I think, from my recollection. But yeah, some of the things that happen. Well, it's not the Broadway, that's the station. Just as you come out of the station and turn right and head down it, means that the ends just keep warring. And it was, I remember the Tottenham Hackney thing that was going on when I was a bit younger. That's kind of what happened there. Do you know what I mean? They still don't get on because mad things happen in that beef.
3 different areas that come together to form 156. The one being due to the UB1 postcode, which is in Southall. Southall being a large town in West London, part of the London Borough of Ealing. Now the 5 resembles the UB5 postcode, which is in Norfolk, which is also a town in West London. And finally, the 6 represents Greenford, which is a large...
I tell you, I know these areas so well, literally. And it's mad that that's just off the North Circular, and there's no reason for you to film that parade. There can't be nothing. Well, obviously it is anyway.
Town in the UB6 postcode.
I know that.
Most notable member from Southall in 156 is Mad Max. In my opinion, an average rapper, but he's a no money maker and one of Southall's top scorers, along with Unks. For Norfolk lies Engan. Prominent members include T-Wiz, Nito MB, Absat, 60, Rifty, etc. Nito MB being one of the first UK drill rappers to have a viral hit in Rising Time. He is lyrically supreme and arguably has the best flow in drill. Finally, Greenford is spearheaded by Workrate, who is their best rapper and one of the best in 156 in general. Other Greenford members include...
Let's be honest, yeah, there's a lot of talent. Between them artists that got mentioned, there's a lot of talent. I know one thing people never talk about, or people say it but people get brushed off, is that there used to be youth clubs back in the day in all these areas. When I was growing up, there was a youth club, and you might play football against the 3 areas that have just got mentioned, which is how you got to know them. They got to know each other a different way, but back in the day, you might end up playing a sport or an activity against these guys, and that's the way you get to know them, through football or hockey or some cricket or some mad thing, rather than the mad ways they got introduced to each other.
Big S, Ads, Nino and SB. 156 also be CGM, Hayes, West Drayton. Their allies are Shepherd Bush, Goulburn, HRB and Active Gang. Now Rayners Lane is a district in the London Borough of Harrow in the northwest region. Rayners Lane, aka Real Lives, have been active for at least 10 years and are mainly based on their Rayners Lane estate, but are also active in other parts of South Harrow, including the Kings Road area. Notable members include T-Rose, Jojo, Breezo, Big K, etc. They are allied with CGM, Roadstone, West Drayton and Hayes. Let me tell you this, everything you've heard about the origin of this beef between 156 and Rayners Lane has been nothing but lies and pure speculation. The truth is, few members had issues in high school, which escalated the N-Gang member Riz and Rayners Lane member Jojo having a fight at Fonda Park. Okay, before I start, I want to debunk...
Big up whoever this brother is. I don't know where he got the information from, but assuming it's true, that's mad. Because I know at least 3 people, I don't know, but I've heard through music, reacting, at least 3 people have died through this beef or war, whatever you want to call it. And to think it started from that, a fight in school, and then a fight at the fair, and then it escalated to, it's mad, man, it's mad.
Something. On August 30, 2016, 2 15-year-old Night Street gang members took a minicab to the Harrow Road area of West London, seeking retribution against rival gang members for an attack on one of their own. A group of boys was spotted, armed with zombie knife. 2 youth unleashed a vicious attack, where Sparkle was stabbed once in the back outside of South Harrow Tube Station. A 17-year-old was also stabbed in the arm and stomach, while another youth, also aged 17, narrowly avoided injury, as an attacker slashed the sleeve of his jacket. Sparkle suffered massive blood loss and sadly died in hospital 3 days later. Many people claim Sparkle was a Rayners Lane member or even an affiliate, but this isn't true. He merely knew a few of them as he lived in the same area. T-Wiz was the
that as well though, right? Appreciate that. That's what they call collateral damage. You don't have to be all the way in to get targeted by, you know what I mean? You might even be because you're seen as a weak link that ain't all the way in. You know what I'm saying?
Boss of N-Gang and one of the most active members in 156, applying a lot of pressure to almost every up block. On the 11th of April 2017, T Rose, along with another Rayners Lane member known as Big K, would travel to Norfolk looking for ops. Armed with a zombie knife, they would spot T Wiz and friends. Wiz and his friends were lacking, so they all ran. Rose and K chased T Wiz into an alleyway where T Wiz screamed for his brother to back the Ramsey, which is another way of saying get the Rambo knife. It was shortly after this when T Rose stabbed T Wiz in the stomach, causing his guts to fall out. One of Wiz's friends saw this, a truly gruesome scene where T Wiz was left lying on the floor. His brother ran to the scene and saw T Wiz. Police were called by the London Ambulance Service to Newham Close in Norfolk. It was here that they found 19-year-old victim with stab wounds in his stomach. He was taken to a North London hospital but was unfortunately pronounced dead just after 5:35 PM. The death of T Wiz was felt by many across the London.
I understand.
Tributes.
I understand. You understand? 19. I don't think, depending on your age, if you're young, you don't understand how young 19 is until you get to one. Until you lived life, a full life, and during that full life, you know of people that die young for other things than the mad thing, car crashes, sickness, and then you live on past that and you get to a certain age. It's then that you realise how young 19 was, because you're seeing other 18, 19-year-olds and you're appreciating what you were like at that age and what they're like, and you kind of allow them because it's just young. You're just young. You're just youths.
Started pouring in. Even Cyrac member SR was grieving. Wiz was truly loved. Now both T Rose and Big K were later arrested and charged with his murder. Members of Tarabi's family, who lived close to the scene, left the Old Bailey in tears after video and audio footage was played to the court. Big K and T Rose, who were charged with carrying out the murder, well, on the 4th of October, both were cleared of his murder following a 2-week trial. Shortly before the jury returned to not guilty verdicts, jurors asked if they had to be unanimous in determining a verdict of self-defense. In relation to one defendant, after acquittals, Judge Nicholas noted very few people are prepared to help the police with murder cases. If somebody helped the police, the outcome might have been different. Despite the fact that one of T Wiz's friends witnessed the murder, he was a gang member, so stuck to the G code and didn't provide a witness statement. This is what ultimately allowed T Rose and Big K to beat the case. And
that's like it's interesting to know the mentality on that. Is it that you just don't cooperate with police? Yeah, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I understand in that situation because G code is different for civilians and gang members. So I get it. If you're a gang member, G code applies. If you're a civilian and you see a mad thing, or a juror, I don't know what they're talking about. Not cooperate with the police, but if you're a juror, supposed to, or a civilian, you're supposed to. But is it because you want him out on the street so you can get to him, or is it just, I don't know, because you got to look his mum, dad, sisters in the eye as well, and say I couldn't cooperate even though he's my dog, because G code says I can't. Oh, I don't know.
Get off and self-defend, as well as an audio of T Wiz being heard screaming to get the Ramsey. T Rose later relocated to a town known as Telford, which is 3 hours away from London. Now that T Rose was free, he dropped one of the most devilish drill songs ever, titled No Lie, where he said, "My young boys roll with the chain, like you can get hit like Wiz. These niggas talk K's, I put a man in a hearse, and finally, and all the ops know what I've done, I put a young man's face on the telly." Many drill fans also believe that in the music video, he's acting out the murder scene, but this is just speculation.
It's interesting because, again, I was doing this after that tune, so I've actually never heard that tune, and I was supposed to listen to it after I did Absaf Tables Turned, but I never got around to it. Maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I'll check it out now. But me hearing it aside, the fact that he did that tune, I don't know, man. With all due respect, it's like it's the ultimate clout chase. Yeah, and I don't mean clout chase in a disrespectful way. I mean clout chase in the fact that you actually did the mad thing, got away with it, and you're gonna rap about it. Why not? You know what I mean? I don't know. Please take the word clout chaser and understand what I mean by it. I don't mean it like a social media clout chaser. I mean it like the situation they're in, the music they make, that kind of, you know what I mean? To show I don't give a, and we got one up on you. It's that kind of, still ill though, man, to make that tune.
See, the death of T Wiz escalated the war into a bloodbath,
of course,
but it also changed the UK drill scene as we know it.
Yeah.
T Wiz will start being mentioned a lot in rival diss songs. However, despite the fact that 1011, who are now known as CGM, had nothing to do with his death, they went on a spree of name dropping him in songs. This undoubtedly pushed their image as killers and aided Diggity's career. Some go as far as say it made him, and to be.
That's a bit weird, isn't it? This is one of the, I can't really speak on it, because if I take it to be true, it's just a bit weird. You understand? It's just a bit weird, man. It's just a bit weird. Big up the digger anyway, but it's just a bit weird, isn't it?
To be honest, I understand the sentiment, as for a short period, many fools would peddle the narrative that they had something to do with his death. CGM members were invited to Westwood Studio to do a crib session. It is here where they dissed T Wiz by saying T Wiz got splashed and died, and I don't feel sorry for his mum. Due to the constant dissing and inciting of violence, CGM became the first drill group in the UK to be issued with a court order that bans them from making music without police permission.
Wow.
In what is described as a legally unprecedented move, members of a group called 1011 were banned from mentioning death or injury and from mentioning name postcodes in a gang context. They must also notify police within 24 hours of releasing new videos and give 48 hours warning of the date and location of any performance or recording. On the 18th of November 2017, Joe Amade, aka Jojo, with 3 others, rode through the streets of Norfolk on 2 mopeds deliberately looking for ops. They spotted an N-gang member known as Jay. Jay ran for his life after splitting up from his friends. Jojo caught up to him and stabbed him. A home security system picked up his screams as Jojo repeatedly stabbed him with a huge knife, inflicting devastating wounds. Jay sadly died from his wounds. That was now 2 members who passed away in the space of months for 156. Jojo was also on bail at the time of the killing for having a knife at the previous month and had been out of the Harrow area to care unit in East London, but he used public transport to travel back across to collect the moped and join his accomplices in the deadly ambush. Police later found an image of Jay downloaded onto his phone from social media, along with video in which he rapped about his gang activity and seeing his victim's mother crying on TV. Jay himself had been caught up in 2 incidents of street violence in the months leading up to his death, both as the victim and alleged offender. Jojo was convicted of murder by an Old Bailey while his co-defendant Khalil was cleared of any involvement. Neither of the 3 other killers have ever been arrested or charged. Judge Mark Dennis jailed Jojo to life with a minimum term of 20 years. N-Gang's very own Nito MB was releasing a few songs in 2017 that quickly gained attention of the drill scene. His verse on Drilling featuring Mad Max was probably verse of the year. Towards the end of 2017, he dropped a Mad About Bars with Kenny Allstar that has amassed 9 million views to date. Easily a top 3 Mad About Bars ever, but it wasn't until 2018 when he would change the drill scene forever. His solo hit Rising Time would garner millions of views, influence a whole generation of flows, schemes and drip. Very few can match his talent. He followed up his hit a month later with a lightweight freestyle that hit 10 million views. Nito would always keep T-Wiz's name alive with his music, tributes in almost every song. He truly loved his boy. And it's one of the reasons why he stopped caring about music. He went on a long hiatus to focus on the streets. Getting back was more important for him than any musical success, which he was on the brink of. Now in 2018, 60 would travel with other 156 members and go to Rayners Lane, where he would spot Rayners Lane members Breezo, Big K and Lino. 60 would then shoot Breezo and escape on a ped. As you can see from his lanky figure, his legs were dangling as they drove off. This is what he meant about when he said, "'Cause your legs too long for the ped."
We know about chilling in the back of the rack, your legs too long for the ped.
Now in 2019, some in-house beef between Southwood side of 156 turned into a tragedy. Sufi Osman, known as Chaos, and Samata Hira, known as Smiley, would get into it. On the 23rd of September 2019, Chaos was found with stab injuries outside a juice bar on the Broadway Southall near junction with Saxon Road. Chaos was identified on local CCTV systems at 3:56 AM walking along the Broadway coming from the direction of Dane Road. At the same time, Smiley was outside the juice bar and appears to have noticed Chaos approaching. Smiley made his way into Saxon Road where there were others before returning to the Broadway. Smiley and Chaos came into contact with each other at the junction. They had a conversation which quickly turned into a confrontation. Sufi can be seen to have swung a blow. They fought and Smiley produced a knife and lunged towards Chaos. At this point, Chaos ran, and it was after a chase that he was overwhelmed and attacked. Officers recovered a kitchen knife, the blade of which was serrated and 21.5 centimeter in length from an alleyway between Dane Road and Marigold Road, a short distance from where Chaos was stabbed. And on the 24th of September, a post-mortem examination was carried out by the Home Office pathologist, Dr. Ashley Fegan O, and the cause of death was given as a hemorrhage and a stab to the left side of the neck. A complete DNA profile which matched Chaos was obtained from the blade and was identified as the murder weapon. The 3 men were arrested, charged and convicted almost a year after the killing. Smiley was sentenced 24 years in prison. He also later switched to Hayes Gang while behind bars. Now in early 2020, 2 156 members armed with guns pursued Breezo and 2 other Rayners Lane members who ran into Blazing Grove just before midnight, looking for cover. CCTV footage captured one gunman taking aims towards the back of the shop and firing 3 shots, hitting the kebab, a waste bin and a food steamer. Blazing Grove owner Jason Das, 31 years old, said it was a crazy thing to do and could have easily killed my staff.
Yo, Stephen, understand 31's a youth as well, well to me anyway. He's just trying to earn a living, and he's got staff in his shop. And this madness, random madness. Do you know what I mean? Yo, people.
And Hannah thought blanks might have been fired until they saw the state of the kebab and realized they were lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
2020 proved to be an active year. On June 2nd at about 9 PM, 156 members travelled to Harrow where they spotted Little Crafty, who repped SCG Worldstar. They ran him over and then proceeded to stab him. Little Crafty was rushed to hospital where he was in critical condition but later recovered. The Metropolitan Police launched a manhunt and were also searching for the vehicle thought to be involved in the attack, but it was to no avail as it hasn't been found till this day. Nito MB also recorded himself getting into a car and chasing Rayners Lane member Jay Milley. It is safe to say Jay Milley didn't want any smoke that day.
No way. Hey, Jay Millie, why are you cutting, bro? Hey, Jay Millie, pull up. Come on, bro. That's it. Pull up. Pull up. That's it. Hey. Hey. Pull up. Hey. Pull up. Pull up. Tell this you to pull up, man. Hey. Pull up. Hey, Millie. Millie. Hey.
On the 13th of October, events occurred that will completely flip the trajectory of this war. Around 12:10 PM, T. Rose, who was staying in Telford, 156 members, in grey Skoda Karoq drove towards him before shooting him in the head 4 times. 2 ambulances, 2 paramedic officers, and the Midlands Air Ambulance from Cosford with a Merrick trauma doctor, critical care paramedic on board were on the scene where T. Rose was found suffering gunshot wounds. Despite the best efforts to save him, sadly T. Rose died at the scene. 6 people have been arrested on suspicion of his murder on the 13th of October and have since been bailed. T. Rose's family have also asked people to cooperate with the police investigation into his death.
It's
3
mad
men
though.
questioned by...
It's mad though. People say 2 phrases. 1, eye for an eye. And 2, live by the gun, die by the gun, or live by the sword, or die by the sword, or whatever. Can't remember which way that phrase works, but this is the prime example, and it's crazy. Yeah, the crazy part is you have to feel more sorry for the families than anything else, because just now, I'm not gonna lie, when I heard them talk about his family grieving, I kind of thought to myself, well, he done it to someone else, and they had to go through that as well. What did you expect? But at the same time, as a mum, dad, sister, auntie, uncle, the beef part of it has nothing to do with his family and nothing to do with the other guy's family. All that's happened to both families is that they've lost a son, niece, son, nephew, brother. You understand? And that's what, when you get involved in these kind of things, that's kind of what you have to take into account, man. It's bad enough that you're doing a mad thing that you don't even necessarily want your family to find out about your involvement in, but God forbid something happens to you. Yo.
Police are 19 and are from Norfolk, London, Bromley in London, Tipton and Sandwell. Detectives have also seized 2 more vehicles following the discovery of a burnout Skoda Karoq near Wrecking.
For some better days, my niggas love the money, but they target compress the gaze. 16 in that cell, lived in hell, I couldn't get away. Me and K, we held it down, we fought the crowd and we beat the case. Mommy, yeah, she struggled, had depression, should've seen her face. Thought I'd get them, yeah, she cried them tears and it would never change. Yeah.
Get me. Listen to the bars though. You know what I mean? He's talking about how his mum will be upset at him going to prison, but they murked someone else's son. You get what I'm saying? It's, you know what I mean? And he beat the case and listen, man. I love the music, but boy.
Then we got freedom back. Came home, ain't get no change. Mommy's on my mind, I need to give that lady everything. Give daddy, so this song I say this song will never change. I was in the field, I used to slide out, ride out every day. Niggas think they bad, they wanna kill me, that's a thing. And I ain't gotta talk, my niggas know.
They say revenge is a dish best served cold, and for 156 to have avenged T-Wiz by killing his killer Well, I'm sure you can imagine the scenes back in Norfolk after they found out. Tribute poured in for Wiz while dissing T Rose. Digga D sent a heartfelt tribute for T Rose and sneak dissed 156 by mocking the fact it took 156 3 years to get back, which is stupid as there's no expiry date on revenge. Digga D also got T Rose on a pen debt as well as a ring that reads Free Jojo.
Wow.
Now a huge part of Digga D's success is down to T Rose. It was his drill they rapped about that got them the street credibility by being associated with a killer.
Wow.
And although Digga D understood that and is grateful, other CGM members like Hovid One did the opposite and distanced themselves from T Rose, flat out denying him to make the scoreboard look better. This is the cruel side of the streets.
Wow.
People will be your friend. If you die, they'll act like you won, so it doesn't.
I can't believe that's the case. Like, I could believe they denied him, but just for the scoreboard to look well. But let me just be quiet. I'm thinking, because he talked about the number of years to get back to it. I don't know, let me listen. But I don't think there's been a response.
It looked like a loss.
Beacon, who's T Rose?
I don't know, man.
Now you'd think that fact.
With all due respect, he said that because it seemed like he was talking to some idiot thing, yeah. So of course he's just gonna, and she's trying to draw him out. So I don't know on that one.
Finally, after avenging the murder of T Wiz, that 156 would be done for the day. Sadly, that wasn't the case, and around 10 p.m. on the same day T Rose was murdered, 156 members travelled to Hayes where they would spot Hayes gang members on Austin Road. Shakur Hassan, aka Shaq, was one of them. Shaq would then be shot in the chest on the passenger side of the car and collapse. The car would then drive off towards Cold Harbour Lane. Despite the efforts of emergency services, Shaq was pronounced dead at the scene a short time later. A 15-year-old girl was among the bystanders who tried to save his life.
I know people that, if you've ever seen, I've seen the best efforts of emergency services firsthand, attending a young man that he died in the end of the day. If you've ever seen something like it changes your perspective on life, number one, and two, it changes your perspective on beef, because I seen the crime happen, and I seen a man breathe his last breath. I've seen it. I was across the street, and until you see something like that and you realise a man's life, and in reality, that when I saw it, the guy kind of started the situation. He came out of his dance, come out of a club, angry at someone else. He started it, and they finished it quickly like that. And I'm telling you, the man's cousin come out of the dance, or girl come out of the dance after. His brethren's come out of the dance. They're now vexed, chasing the man down the street. His cousin's looking at.
The Metropolitan Police said a 46-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of the murder and is currently in police custody. Two men, aged 31 and 21, were arrested in connection with the incident. They were taken to West London Police Station and subsequently released with no further action.
Wow.
At the time of Shaq's death, flowers, candles and balloons were left at the crime scene on Austin Road by friends and family. One card said, "R.I.P. bro, forever in my head, the kind of soul fallen, rest in peace."
He seemed like a cool brother,
Another
you know.
said, "Sleep tight," and the third, "Love you always." Just sad, really.
Yeah.
Solo London, a former Hayes gang rapper and now reformed man who now dedicates his life to Islam, had this to say about his friend's
Even
death.
Ramadan, he rang me. I remember Ramadan, my wife was heavily pregnant, so, heavily, and he rang me and he was like, "I need to speak to you." And then I even said to my wife, I said, "Look, I know you're heavily pregnant, but I really need to go right now." And I would never ever leave her at that time, because I'm thinking to myself, anything can happen right now. So it was literally towards the end, and I went to go see him, and he's telling me about, wallahi, he was telling me I'm going through depression, just the life on the streets. And, I was always that person who he could go back to and speak to, because he knew where I came from. Like, I was a younger from Hayes, and he always spoke to me about how he was feeling and what he really wanted to do. And I remember telling him in Ramadan, I said, "Look, the massages are closed, and it's right now it's locked down, but the gates of Jannah is open. Ask Allah what you want. I remember me telling him, like, ask Allah what you want. Like, turn back to Allah right now. I'm telling him, I remember saying to him, just turn back. But he was just like, you know, it's hard, man. It's hard, you know, like, being in this environment. Like, you know, he lived in the middle of Town. He lived in Red Brick. And how he died was, it was not even his kind of problems. You know, those guys in the area that was having, like, beef with some other areas and stuff like that. You know, these kids nowadays, like you lot are killing each other for, like, no reason. Literally, you're killing each other for no reason. Like, it's like his games. It's like, you know, this guy kills him from that area, he kills him from that area. Allah's going to ask each and every single one of you. Even you guys that never done it, you guys are gassing it up, giving the fuel to the people and saying, yeah, go do it, go do it. All you even involved in terms of, like, gassing each other up, wallahi, Allah's going to ask you, like, fear Allah.
After being heavily mocked for losing members, 156 managed to kill 2 ops in one day. What followed was a diss track after another. 2 in a day became the slogan for the boys from Norfolk.
Gelato straight to the head. Why Rose got done his head and Shaq got done his chest. Now it makes sense why I ran out of breath. Empty clip till nothing's left. 2 in a day with the wildest and west.
As a get back for the death of Rose, J Millie and E-Man stabbed up Greenfoot member Ads, who would survive the attack.
Get on the 156. Might get your wrong hit. Nigga, don't sit. My young boy roll with a thing like you can hit it like wins.
However, the reign of terror 156 were on didn't stop there. So what happened to Az? They responded by gliding on Rayners Lane member E-Man. He was shot 5 times, causing him to lose his heartbeat before he was resuscitated on the scene by paramedics.
Oh my god, someone just got shot. Someone just got shot, bro.
He was then left on a wheelchair. J Millie and E-Man were later arrested and charged for the attempted murder of Az. On Friday, 11th of June 2020 at 4:30 p.m, 15-year-old Rayners Lane member Jalen, aka J Taps, was walking to school with his friends in Hayes when he was set upon by a 156 member Slims. Slims brandished a Rambo knife from his waist and chased J Taps. J Taps attempted to defend himself with a traffic cone, but was sadly slashed in the face and stabbed in the chest. Slim then fled the scene and made his way to school, but was arrested a short time later. Witnesses told officers that...
That's the maddest thing, the free, like, you just listen to what Slim did, and you free Slim, it's always the maddest to me. It's always confusing to me, I tell you.
The suspect appeared to have been filming the attack on his phone. The Met said, but he refused to answer any questions during the interview.
Naturally.
Mr. Nolan said the defendant attempted to justify his action by claiming self-defense, but the evidence and eyewitness accounts confirmed that he was carrying a large knife in a gloved hand, whereas Jalen was unarmed and tried to use a traffic cone to fend off his attacker. Once again, another teenager has lost his life to knife crime, and another family is grieving the loss of a child.
That's different level people.
We are determined to do whatever is necessary to crack down on the violence, but we need the help of our communities and partners to tackle this problem. Slims was convicted by a jury of manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison with an extra 3 years on license after his release. Now fast forward to 2022 in July, Rayners Lane member Skiz and others got into a Mercedes and attempted to ride out on 156. They travelled to Norfolk where they spotted a 156 member. Unfortunately for them, the script was flipped and the 156 member started shooting at the car. A 30-year-old member in the car was hit and was found with gunshot wounds at the junction of Kings Hill Avenue and Yeadon Lane in Norfolk. He was taken to hospital where his condition was reported to be non-life threatening. One eyewitness said he saw at least 9 bullet holes in the driver's window and rear door of a grey Mercedes A-Class abandoned at the scene. The eyewitness added there were clearly numerous latex gloves, a foil sheet, and what appeared to be bandages on the road by the driver's door, suggesting there were injuries. A number of shots had passed through the car and exited the passenger's window. Where they ended up is anyone's guess. Now the tables turned serious. Absat, a rapper who hails from Norfolk, finally took the get-backs from the street into the music. He released a 3-part drill song that mocks all of his dead ops in the most heinous of fashion. The tipping point behind part 2, where he filmed with a skeleton resembling his ops while doing voiceovers, speaking about why their living friends aren't riding for them.
I remember watching it. We had to cut that off. I couldn't watch it. And in hindsight, now that I know the story and the background to it, as heavy as this was and as funny as it was or whatever, yeah, I don't know, man.
I wouldn't say Abzad was doing too much though, as he simply returned some of the same energy that was given to 156 when they lost friends to the streets.
Rose, hashtag kill confirmed. The general got put in the grave.
Even Digga D said, between me and you, I'll act the same too. You drop my niggas killer. In other words, if one of my friends died and we ended up getting his killer, I'd as much as you have been. So many lives lost over something that started as petty as high school beef. It's been your boy Skyboy, and this concludes today's video. And as usual, I'm sending condolences to all the families of anyone they've lost. Follow me on Instagram at PagansGetGot, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video, as it goes a long way.
That was interesting. I can't lie, and I'm definitely going to check out a couple more of his videos. The most important thing for me was the fact that it started from, if that's the case, yeah, that it started from a fight in high school and all of that madness happened. I remember I used to do pirate radio in Greenford, so I know these areas. And I remember on a Sunday, the guy that done the show before me, he put up. This was 8-9 years ago, so I don't know what had happened at that time. But he just stopped playing music and he spoke for 2 hours about what was going on in that local area, that area of West London. Literally, he played like reggae music, revival reggae music. He just didn't play no music for 2 hours of his show and just talked about it. Basically saying, stop what you're doing. It was deep. It was deep. It was deep. I had to give him ratings for that. Anyway, enough waffling. It's interesting. I'm definitely going to check out a few more of these, because it's good to understand the background of what went on before the mad thing that you're hearing and how it's real. Yeah, because sometimes it's just lyrics and beats and rhythms and bars, but it's really real, and there's real people that lost their lives, and there's real families that lost loved ones in all of this. So yeah, right.
Into more of these videos pending in the future.